everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Regular Pads. I am your host, Sam, and today we are back at it with our pre-season deep dive. We're still in a position where training camp hasn't finished, OTAs have happened, etc. But let's take a look at who we think is good and who we think is bad. Now, last week, we took a look at AFC North. Yes, we did. Ravens, Browns, Steelers, and Bengals. It's right in front of me here. And it might take me no surprise, we're going to be looking at the NFC North. And I'm going to start out with, we're just going to jump straight into this. This is going to give you, all of your tiers, etc., that we're going to look to build out before we get to the end. Episode 9 will be a review of the tiers and maybe even a mock draft at the end of that as well. But we'll spend 25 minutes, half an hour on each of these divisions and see where it takes us. And we're going to start with Lions. And the Lions are really interesting again this year because before last year they had Aaron Glenn in defense, which gave you an advantage, should I say, in the offensive game by the fact that you knew there was going to be consistency in the way they were going to drive the ball down, and ultimately, when on defense, there was going to be a consistent process as well. And obviously, Ben Johnson being the lead figure in innovative plays now in the Chicago Bears. We'll get onto that in a minute, but this leaves a bit of a hole in terms of what they actually have in terms of their depth. They're two new coordinators. Yes, they've still got Dan Campbell. Yes, they will still have an identity. Will it be the same identity? We're going to start with that identity being the running backs. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I don't think I can put either of them in game changer, I think it's going to be really tough for me to get game changer into the RB spot. But I do think there is an obvious lead, and Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy here. So I'm going to put him as my kind of RB1 workhorse here. Someone that you can put in there. He's going to get PPR points. Even if he's not a true workhorse, I think he can be great. And I think he is on the edge of that game changer, He is really in a really high tier. You know what? I'm kind of going back and forth here. I am going to put him in here into this game changer. I do think Gibbs could be the guy, but I think with a caveat. I think you need to be able to make sure that David Montgomery doesn't see the field quite as much. Yes, they're really, really useful together, and I do think David Montgomery had the potential to be a league winner. But last year, I think if we let's take a look at his stats. I think they were so heavily weighted last year to touchdowns. Yeah, touchdowns. 12 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns the year before. Yes, he's had consistent usage. Last year, his efficiency was so much better in terms of touchdowns. He got those end zone targets and end zone pickups. If we look at Jahmyr Gibbs over the last his last period, let's have a quick look at his stats here. First year, 882 carries, 10 touchdowns, 16 touchdowns last year. Do we see that being more favourable to him? I do. Can I see them leaning more into that? Yes. David Montgomery's getting another year older. He is going to be turning 29. Is that a turning point for them? Is he a Derrick Henry? I'm not quite sure. I do think he can be a league winner. Yes, I do think he can have that, but I'm going to put him firmly into the flex conversation over here. So he's not something you're going to want as your league guy. And although he is fantastic and has delivered well in Detroit, has he delivered anywhere else to that level, or was it the Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson effect? The other person who's going to be affected considerably is going to be Jared Goff, and Jared Goff does not have the physical tools to be able to take you to the next level. He's not a Jalen Hurts, Jaden Williams, Jaden Daniels. Sorry, he's not a Lamar Jackson. He's a guy. I do think he could be a league winner because of the high touchdown rate that he has. Can he keep that up? Let's have a look at his stats here. I'm not sure whether he's got it in him. Every year for the past, he's been around since 2016, and he's still not even that old. He's only 30. That's crazy. Came at the same time as Carson Wentz. But if we look at his touchdowns in full starting seasons for the Rams under McVay, 28, 32, 22, 20, 19, 29, 30, 37 last year. I think there's going to be more regression to the mean. I think we're probably looking at that 30 mark here. He threw an awful lot in that year. But even if he's doing 30, he's going to be pretty good. Do I think he's a league winner and can take the leap? Maybe. Do I think he is later on value when people have done the flashy names? Yes, I do. Do I think he'll be overlooked? Of course I do. I'm going to put Goff in my late value tier. At wide receiver, I think it's really obvious where all the targets are going to get driven. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, I do think he is game-changing the position. I think he is elite. I am going to put him in my elite hands category here. So we've got some really, really fantastic elite players here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, ARSB for short, is going in there. But after that, who else? Who else? Let's switch up a little bit. Let's look at the tight end. And Sam Laporta did have a regression to the mean last year after his fantastic rookie season. Let's take a look at his stats here. Rookie season, 889 and 10 TDs. Last year, 16 games, 60 receptions, so down from the 86 they had before. Still good yardage, still decent amount. I still think he's going to be good. And the group thing I'm kind of hearing is that he's looked down upon quite a lot. If he returns to form, and I think he could because there's less targets in the wide receiver room, potentially, or there's questions there. I think he could potentially be a league winner. So I'm going to put him in the same spot that I put Mark Andrews. I can't trust him above Mark Andrews, and I am doing this tiering here. So I'm going to put him in here, but I might be able to shift him around a little bit. He will go early, and I think he might harm his chance a little bit there. Beyond Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, I think, has the potential to be a league winner. Yes, it doesn't really show out. He's had problems off the field with gambling. Yes, gambling. I think it was him, wasn't it? Outside of that, Tim Patrick, not someone I'm really looking towards. He's a guy. Isaac Tesla was highly drafted. Without any stats behind him. I don't really know what's going on there, but I may be putting Isaac Tesla. Isaac Tesla. I think he pronounced. I don't know. I think he wants to be removed from Elon Musk there. Tim Patrick, I'm kind of putting across there. I reckon the rest of the guys are mainly fodder. We don't have anyone else, but that's your Lions look here. I think we're going to be looking good on the running backs. You're going to be happy if you get a piece of that. If you get Gibbs, he's going to go in the first 6-7 picks you would expect in most kind of redraft leagues. Goff is going to be available probably in the 10th, 11th round. The rest of these guys outside Amon-Ra St. Brown, who will probably be a top 5 pick, I would suspect. I think Sam Laporta is still trading on his rookie season. We'll see how that goes for him. But let's move on to Green Bay. And let's have a look at what they're saying. Green Bay is so far removed from the Aaron Rodgers movement of old, yet they have their own unique problems, and we'll get into that in a second. But Jordan Love, you know what? Let's do this a bit backwards. Josh Jacobs, he's good. He's a workhorse. Do I think he's a league winner? Potentially. If you look at his stats over the last few years, he obviously had a bit of a duff final year in Vegas, only 6 touchdowns, but last year 15 touchdowns. That feels like workhorse productivity. They haven't brought in anyone behind him of note, in my opinion. Marshawn Lloyd, yeah. Emmanuel Wilson, no. Chris Brooks, no. He's an RB1 workhorse, and I'm going to treat him as such. He's probably going to go late in your second round, if not before that. Cracking player. I can't say much more than that. Really good. In the wide receiver room, it gets really messy because I don't think any single person can predict who's going to be number one. Yeah, people might say that Matthew Golden is the guy. He was drafted 15th overall, I believe. He's got the talents, but isn't he just another small separator? A bit like Jaden Reed, a bit like Romeo Dobbs. Christian Watson, obviously a big guy. They've got McCole Hardman, Dontavian Wicks. I don't know who to pick. I think they all have talent, though, and that's really annoying. I think at the moment, you probably put Matthew Golden ahead of some of the others. I'll probably put him in that flex/value spot because if you can get him late. But Jalen Reed, Watson, and if you're looking for targets, Dobbs, potentially. I know it's Doobs, isn't it? That's how you spell it. Potentially there. I think Savion Williams, you're probably ignoring for the time being if he makes a squad. Hopefully he will. He's a 3rd round pick. Wicks, I need to put Wicks in that sleeper position because any of them could break out, and it could be any of their weeks. I think it's crazy. You just cannot predict it. But I think what this means is that your man Jordan Love has a lot of options, and providing if one of them can become a red zone target, and I don't think it's one of the wide receivers, he is locked in QB1, and I think he's going to be devalued. So he's actually going to be my first quarterback who's going to go in that league winner position. I think he can be drafted a bit later and do some real damage for your squad here and do some good. But you've seen there's so many pass receiving options, but no real red zone threat. And I think that's where you get in the red zone threat from Tucker Kraft, and he is going to go in my league winner position here. He's proven himself over the last couple of years. Luke Musgrave was brought in to be that that kind of pseudo wide receiver. Tucker Kraft was a blocking guy. Injury limited, he was on the pitch, on the field a lot more than you would expect him to. He's taken advantage of that and delivered upon his opportunity. And because he's trusted in the blocking game, he's trusted in the passing game, he gets on the field more. He is a fantastic player, and he's seeing that upside. He's not quite wide receiver one. He's not there yet. He's not a Brock Bowers or anything like that, but he is fantastic. So Green Bay, I think Jordan Love is someone you want to target. Jacobs, I think, is going to be a natural. He's going to fit into his ADP quite high up. The wide receiver room is so packed and so dirty. It makes it great for Jordan Love, but if you're picking one of those guys, don't. Is my recommendation. And Tucker Kraft, I think you could do, a lot worse than him here. Let's go take a look at the Chicago Bears because we've already talked about Ben Johnson and the Ben Johnson effect, and I think the Ben Johnson effect means that Caleb Williams could be in contention to be a league winner. I think he's kind of a sleeper. Do I like him as much as Jordan Love? No. Do I like him as much as Jared Goff? Maybe. He's kind of in between this a little bit. I'm going to put him down at the late value position because I still think that, you know what, I'm not buying into the hype that Ben Johnson's going to turn him around straight away. So I'm gonna put him down at the late value position. I think that's where he sits. Because I don't think the wide receiver room has changed drastically enough to really unlock DJ Moore is fine. On his day, he could be good. Do I think he's a wide receiver one, wide receiver two? Probably on the edge of that. I think if you look at his fancy finishes, he's probably sitting around the 14 mark. If he has a good year, yes, he could be a league winner. Roma Dunze, I think I'm ignoring him for now. I just don't think they would have. And we'll get onto this. They would have packed the room with Luther Burden, for example, who I think is a sleeper. I think his archetype is very similar to a Debo, to a DJ Moore, to a little bit of extent, but he's going in my sleeper category. I think he could be a surprise target, and I think he could be someone that Ben Johnson funnels the work through. Everyone else on there, Zacchaeus, Duvernay, I'm not paying attention to these guys. These guys are waiver wire fodder. But there are two tight ends I want to talk about. I mean, currently Cole Kmet is the number one tight end. I'm ignoring him. I don't like him. I don't like him as much. I don't not like him as much as Washington. But I just don't think he's really, really shone. And when he had the solo opportunities last year and with a rookie quarterback where you would think he would make himself be known, he was invisible. 47 receptions, 414 and 4. Yeah, he was there a bit in the end zone, but you can't rely on him for touchdowns. He's a good blocking tight end. That's about all I can say about him. He hasn't had a standout season here. He's just not someone who's on my radar, and who's, if I drafted him, I would feel disappointed. So I am going to put him in the ignored pile, and he's probably going to be the top of the ignored pile, granted, but he's in that tier for me that I'm just not really interested in him, and I don't see any sleeper and breakout potential here. Where I do see potential, though, is Colston Loveland. And do I think he could be a league winner? Oh, yes, I do. And I'm going to I'm going to put that out there now. I think he is a amazing player. Having watched him a little bit, he reminds me so much of Kittle. I think he could be the quarterback's best friend. If you look at the best plays from Ben Johnson in the past, it's where he's used tight ends in motion, things like that. He is so incredibly talented. I think you're going to get a lot out of him here. But the running back room, I'm just wondering what they can do. But Ben Johnson has obviously experienced DeAndre Swift and got rid of him swiftly. After that season that we were watching Hard Knocks of him not being able to break through the tackles. Sorry. These guys are not of interest to me. Most DeAndre Swift is a kind of spot starter. Yeah, he's there. He's maybe got a bit of value in the pass catching game. But I'm more interested in, fun enough, for the value, Roschon Johnson, and see if he can become the guy. I know a lot of people are talking about Kyle Monangai as well, so I'm going to put him in here. Monangai, I think that's how you pronounce it, maybe not. But yeah, these guys are handcuffs that could become late season starters. We've seen Roschon Johnson perform well on spot starts. It's an interesting backfield, but I think this is going to be so heavily focused around getting value out of Caleb Williams. He is at the top of my late value list. I think you can get him very late, potentially maybe overhyped a little bit during training camp. We'll have to see how it goes. But you've got a decent cast around him, not the most amazing fantasy, but I think it's going to be a better football team than it will be a better fantasy team. Still yet to see if Caleb Williams can be the first quarterback to go over 4,000 yards for the Chicago Bears, because that will be a marker of true fantasy success. And finally, the Minnesota Vikings, whose depth chart here looks super weird and super unfilled. But I think I can talk to them a little bit. It's just not listing anyone. Maybe they haven't released their guys here. Oh, here we go. It's sorted out now. Just had some technical difficulties there for those of you watching on stream or on YouTube here. Let's start out with JJ McCarthy. I think everyone's going to bundle him in with the Goffs and the Aaron Rodgers and Caleb Williams. For me, he is a streamer at best until he proves himself otherwise. He is a rookie, and we should treat him like that. He is one that is very highly touted, one that meant they could get Kirk Cousins out of the room, get Sam Darnold away as well. But he's very much a rookie still. In the running back room, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason is a very high end handcuff for me. He could even take over the jobs. Aaron Jones, let's take a look at him. It's his age 30 season this year. Has he managed to stay on the field recently? He did manage to stay on the field last year, but the year before in Green Bay, only 11. He's generally been okay, getting 90% of his games here. Obviously had a tough time in his last season in Green Bay. Are the wheels going to come off a little bit? Yes, he's got the Kevin O'Connell effect, but only 5 touchdowns last year. Maybe that's a signal of their game, because everything runs through your man Jay Jetta. So I'm still going to put Aaron Jones in the flex value conversation. I don't think he's much better than that, but it's obvious. Justin Jefferson is an elite guy, and he will get elite touches. He will be the guy, end zone guy, no matter what. Even with JJ McCarthy, who will have to be slinging the rock, hopefully he's had enough time to understand the system and understand what's going on. I think he's going to still be fantastic. Number 2 behind him, it could be a number of different guys. I think Jordan Addison is the high-end value here, but he only just. I think there's some questions about whether he might face some prison time as well. I won't want to comment on that one. I'm ignoring Rondale. I just don't think he can really perform at this level, and I think he's shown by kind of hovering around a little bit. I do like the idea of Naylor. Jed Naylor, he showed out really well, and if Jordan Addison makes way in 2 wide receiver sets, I think he's an obvious fit. Ty Felton is an interesting one that I may be thinking about, but for the time being, he is in my ignored pile. He's not someone I'm going to be actively drafting at any point here. And then at the tight end position, you've got a guy in Josh Oliver who's just got a contract. But I think if we look at his stats, they are going to be underwhelming at best. 22 catches being his top. He's completely ignored for me. Some people are talking about drafting him in Dynasty because he's got a contract. I'm like, really? I just don't see it myself. TJ Hawkinson, however, has had an interesting career marred with injury. Even when he was out, Josh Oliver didn't stand up, and you just got more targets funneled towards Justin Jefferson. So not really seeing the huge value in Josh Oliver, but consistency last few years, 914, 960. He's obviously performing considerably better on average on a points per game basis. 0 touchdowns last season, bit of a scary one. 5 touchdowns the year before, whether that was a Sam Darnold thing, whether it's something else. But I think you're going to need someone who is going to be really useful to you. He is still in my kind of flex value tier. I don't see him as being a league winner. He is a name brand. I think that puts him on line with the likes of Mark Andrews, but that's as far as I can really take him. So interesting group of teams here. Let's go through the position by position and the tiers we've got here. In the NFC North, I think Jordan Love could be a league winner, whilst Goff and Caleb could definitely provide value in the later rounds. JJ McCarthy is still wait and see. I think he will end up being a fantastic streaming option. In the running backs, Gibbs stands out to me as my game changer. I think he is so good, that electric. Even with Montgomery, he produced a running back like 3 performance last year in certain formats. Jacobs follows a little bit further behind. I think there is quite a big tier gap. He's maybe at the lower end of that RB1 workhorse. He doesn't match up to Derrick Henry, but he is fantastic and very much heavily dependent on touchdowns. And then you get a lot of guys at the lower end, at the kind of running back 3 beyond range, handcuff range. No one bad, but Montgomery is probably the highest of those. He could potentially be a league winner. I do think there's going to be a regression for him. That's why I'm kind of avoiding him a little bit, because I'm so in on Gibbs. DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones all sit to varying degrees between that kind of 25 to 36 range in my head canon anyway. And handcuffs, Roshan Johnson, Monan Guy, either of them could break out under Ben Johnson, and Jordan Mason being, I think, a very high-end running back handcuff for Aaron Jones. Justin Jefferson joins Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamar Chase now. So those 3 are my elite hands. We've had a lot of good wide receiver talent we've talked about so far. Jameson Williams is a potential league winner for me in a different way to T. Higgins. T. Higgins is going to be on the receptions. Jameson Williams is going to be on those big plays. He can have a game and win you weeks, which is what you want out of that position. DJ Moore, I think, provides a better floor for the Bears. So, those guys are in your league winner position. Your flex value, the only one I can really see and convince myself has a value in that kind of wide receiver 3 range is Matthew Golden, mainly on draft position alone. But everyone else is a sleeper or an unknown. In your sleepers, you've got Isaac Tesler, yes, highly drafted for his position, but will he be the guy? He's a big body guy. He's more of a tight end, it feels like. There's so much uncertainty around Reed, Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, Luther Burden, Addison and Naylor. We don't know who's going to come out and be the guy for their respective teams. So a lot of unknowns there. And the guys I'm ignoring, unfortunately. I'd love to do a 31-year-old Tim Patrick review because I think he's brilliant. Savion Williams, I think he's just going to be another guy in the list unless they get rid of someone in Green Bay. Roma Dunze, I think Luther Burden's going to take that wide receiver 2 role from him, and Rondale Moore and Ty Felton, I'm just not feeling that a rookie quarterback can support them in the passing game. In Vikings, I know he's not rookie, but he's a rookie. We do have a couple of good tight end options. We still haven't got our wide receiver 1 upside, but I think one of the closest that we've seen to it in terms of volume is Tucker Kraft. Colson Loveland has the ability to go and do that. Will he be let loose, being it's his first season? And he's maybe given less blocking responsibilities, more seam beaters. Maybe that's something the Bears were looking at. I think he's got some boom games in him. Sam Laporta, I think people are down on him, but I am not. Despite the regime change, he still holds that flex and name value alongside previous names, Mark Andrews and Kasicki, and also the Vikings, TJ Hawkinson. He still remains in that tier. But the guys I'm ignoring, and I'm highlighting the guys I'm ignoring who aren't being ignored currently. Cole Kmet just isn't doing it for me. It just can't make me believe. And Josh Oliver, despite the contract situation and getting a new contract, I just don't think he has the talent to be fantasy favourable. That is your lot, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you've heard, you can obviously go and support the pod, www.rugbywithpads.com. get yourself a membership, all that fun stuff. You can get cheaper merch, and you can support the pod for only £1 a month. You can, of course, like, favorite, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share this pod. That's what the main ask. If you can do that, then we can go far. So thank you so much for listening, guys. Next week, I will be covering another AFC group, I believe. We'll probably be looking at the AFC South next, burying the lead. If you've liked this, please do all the things you can. But I've been Sam, and I will see you all very soon. Virtual Gridiron.